Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. We are going to continue our journey in learning, discovering a little bit more of this ancient language every day. And yesterday we talked about 步步高升, which is one of the most commonly used Chinese New Year best wishes to your neighbors and friends. And it's about rising through the ranks, like 步步, taking each step firmly, and you're basically best wished to rise higher to a higher position. And today we continue with 升, this rising, this concept of rising, and this time it's rising to the sky. It's beyond the human domain even. And we have 鸡犬升天. And here you're going to wonder, like, what are you talking about? Why the chickens and the dogs are going to rise to the sky? Wow, this is, if you say 鸡犬升天 to Chinese, they will be very impressed by your knowledge about this language, because this is a kind of a funny expression, but it's still commonly used because it describes a frequent phenomenon in China, which is nepotism. It's kind of part of the culture embedded in the genes of how the society works, which is not exactly what you can do, it's who you know, right? So it's networking to the most level. Okay, 鸡犬, two animals, domestic animals that are here, I guess 鸡犬 used because they are, 鸡 is mostly for the eggs and for the meat, right? And 犬 is for the company or for the security. They are going to bark and get alerted. So they are the ring back then, right? Before the technology watch out for you. This kind of surveillance by the dogs were probably the practice back then. So they are the two most commonly non-human companions living as if they are domestic, they are part of your household, right? And 鸡 come from this bird image. Now, that defines the category of Westerners or the English users may not regard a chicken, like it may not be reminded every time they use the word chicken as something is actually a bird. But the Chinese language users, every time we look at the character 鸡, this is simplified 鸡, traditional 鸡. And if you go to Taiwan, you can still see this 鸡. Every time we see that character, we were reminded the category of that animal, of that species, which is used to be able to fly. It may still be able to fly on a small scale, short distance, but their ancestors or their animal kingdom categories is definitely a bird. They are feathered beings, right? So this is a depicting of a generic bird with feathers, kind of fluffy horizontally, and these are the aerodynamic body or the legs portion of that, and this is the beak, this is the head. So it's a very vivid visual, the main component of this bird anatomy, side view, kind of in flight, already captured in here. And then on the left side is the sound maker. Yeah, it sounds like a xi, but the xi actually came from the slavery image. I guess slavery was a kind of a common practice in the ancient society, right? In the East and the West as well. So it was it was captured in the language. So testify to the existence or the common practice back then. This circular thing, almost like a chain, right? With connected by a short link in between. So this is kind of like a chaining image of somebody who is standing up like this. Chinese characters, when we depict a person, a generic person, it's most likely like that. But when you have this visual representation is the upper body and torso. Of course, it's not proportional, but that's the best the way to abstract things is having the two legs separated like that instead of like this. So like that, when it's like that, in another, I mean, just by itself here, it means somebody standing up. And the standing up image, instead of doing this, this is standing up, two-leg person. That's a generic person sign. And if it's standing up like this, two legs separated with this top portion, the two arms and torso squished together, that means somebody who is kind of like a, almost like a muscular, or somebody who got muscles, not necessarily like, not the bodybuilder muscle image, like contemporary, like it's artificial muscles, right? It's actually muscle from labor. So somebody who is heavily involved in laboring. So they kind of grow stronger than like physically than the slave owners, right? So this is describing the person is used for their muscles, and they are in chains, and they are under control with this finger hand symbol going top down. So if something is going top down, that means it's under control, right? You can just easily control them by pulling the chains of this muscle use person. The whole left side, now it's xi sound maker, but it makes sense when it paired with the bird image, because what is chicken? It is bird in slavery to humans. They are bird captured, raised, farmed by humans, and they are in slavery to humans. They are not a free bird by that definition. So they are for the consumption of humans. So in that sense, it's a pretty accurate depiction of what is chicken, the essence of chicken. Okay. Dogs is simply a visual representation of dogs. These are the dog ears, the nozzles of the dog, and the head. And then these are the body of the dog. So it's kind of side view of the dog. And I would wonder, because sometimes the animal, for example, like pigs, they will have four legs depicted to kind of emphasize it's a four-leg animal. It's definitely not human. But over here in the human language, I mean, in the dog character representation, this four-leg animal essence was not emphasized. Instead, it has this almost like two-leg, like a human attribute attached to the dog ear. So I guess language creators would regard dogs as partial human. If any animal that was close to, form a kind of a friendship or at least companionship with humans, it's probably dogs is the number one animal there. So probably that's why a language creature was kind of attach human leg, two leg instead of four, to this dog ear and nozzle image. So in any case, in slavery or in company, these are animals that's heavily related, involved in human life, right? And sheng, we talked about this measuring of grains or harvest. So in agriculture, right, after a year of work, you have to kind of circulate, you have to sell your harvest to somebody, and this is a quick way, big containers, and you load in the grains and to measure. So this, from the measurement, this markings of how high the container rise up, and there is this line to marking, okay, things are growing. I mean, there's only one way, it's not going to go down. Well, it's probably can go down too if it was taken out. But if you're using it as a marking of the volume of things, it's going to rise up as you fill up. So this rising through the marks, right, of this measurement of this grain container depicts the slow progression of rising from lower to high, vertical rising. So that's the agriculture-based concept of rise. And the sky, we have this human figure. So now we have this abstract, the two legs standing human figure. And then there's this big arch thing. Somebody could view it as the arms, but I view it as this arch as a big spacer. So that's a big spacer between humans and the upper limit, which is the sky. If it's top of the frame, that means it's heaven. It's visibly identifiable upper limit for humans. So that's the sky representing, because it's definitely above humans and there's a big space in between. Okay, so chickens and dogs, they're rising up to sky. Like, what's happening there? Anti-gravity motion is the capsule or the key concept or keyword, a simple way to describe how Nepotism was playing out in Chinese culture. We have a phrase in front of that. The complete expression is 8 characters. So here I'm using just 4 to represent, but you can see here, 一人得道. It's like one person in that household. Once they get it, 得道 means get the way or get on the way. The way here, originally probably means the way to understand how the world operates. So that's the ultimate, like a connection to the universe or spirituality, right? Or a revelation about things. Like once you get it, like you're so connected to how the universe or the world are operating, then that person would transform and ascend, almost like in Christianity, right? You become a deity instead of a human, become an immortal. So once you get it, once you understand how things are working, you rise up from your mortality to become an immortal. And a visual saying of that is that this person is going to rise above the ground, going to go do some anti-gravity movement to go vertically rise up to the heaven, or that imagined good place to be. And then even domestic animals are going to go with this person, because they are probably considered one unit by whoever decides he qualifies to rise up to the sky, become part of the heavenly figures. So this is how it came into being. That's basically describing this from the Taoism concept of, an average layperson once got the revelation of Tao, like once you get the Tao, and then you're going to rise up to heaven, become immortal. That was the imagine or the theory, right? It's almost like in Buddhism, once you become a Buddha, right? You also kind of immortal. I mean, I don't exactly know. But in Taoism, that's the theory or the expectation. That's what would happen. And this is a kind of a further secularized that practice. It's like in actuality, this Tao, like very few of us will get that far, right? But the most relatable way to get the Tao is you actually get recognized or certified or somewhat promoted by a higher power, which is the ruler of the society, right? That's the heavenly figure, like representing whoever is controlling or organizing the society over there. So if you're recognized by the ruler and promoted to be higher rank, most likely, I mean, it forms a contrast to 步步高升, which is rising through the ranks. So you have to go through the ranks from lower to higher. And here is 得道. It's like you instantly become like a celebrity almost, right? You're not rising through the ranks. you're going from A to Z almost, like 得到, you instantly get promoted to a much, much higher position. So it's almost like a rise up, ascending to heaven in that sense. So secularized version would be if you get promoted like by a huge margin, not rise to ranks like that, but highly promoted. All of a sudden, you're out of your social stratification, right? You're out of your rank. All of a sudden, you play in a big league almost, right? And then everybody related to you. It's like they are instantly closer to power, right? Instantly closer to the decision makers who can have a big stake on how things are running. So even they are nothing but chickens and dogs in a domestic household of that newly promoted powerful power figure, they are going to become like ascend to heaven as well. And that's most common phenomenon, right? Happen in the society over there. Like once you got promoted to be the leader or the top rank, power figure, people who grew up with you, the pals of you, the buddies, are going to be placed in power simply because you are in that powerful position. And that's how things work over there. And this 鸡犬升天 describing that mechanism of, it's definitely not meritocracy. It's definitely like who you know. If you happen to be the lucky buddies of this future power figure early on. So it's kind of like a lucky draw. Like you wouldn't really know who you play with in a childhood, what grew up, or your early coworkers or collaborators. One, they were not somebody yet, but you know them pretty well and form a friendship back then. And one day, all of a sudden, that person rise up through the ranks like a helicopter, right? Helicopter to the top. And then you're going to have that upward channel, like free, open, the doors are open for you. So that's the kind of nepotism we're talking about. 鸡犬升天. Patient to the currency of thinking by One Word a Day with Sophie. See you another day.